Hey everyone! Before we dive into today's chilling tales, if you're a fan of spooky stories and love a good scare, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. And if you're ready to feel the goosebumps, go ahead and give this video a like. It really helps support the channel and lets me know you want more. Now let's get into the horror. I grew up in a small town in the countryside of Ohio. It wasn't the kind of place you'd want to stay if you loved excitement, unless, of course, you had a deep appreciation for long stretches of farmland and quiet days. The only real activity around was nature, and when I turned 18, I was more than ready to leave. I got a car, found a job, and moved to the city as soon as I could. I wasn't opposed to nature, but I always preferred the vibrancy and chaos of a big city. My parents no longer own the property. It was sold a few years ago, but I'll never forget it. It was a 3-acre plot of land, with a decent-sized house and a large storage shed out back. I was 13 when this strange event occurred. My parents trusted me a lot, and at that age, they would often leave me alone on weekends to take care of the property. I had a lot of responsibilities, mowing the lawn, feeding the animals, checking the fences, and so on. On this particular weekend, I was in the living room playing Grand Theft Auto, Vice City on my PS2, when I heard a loud metallic bang coming from outside. My first instinct was to check the windows to see if I could spot anything unusual. I ran to every window in the house but didn't see anything, until I reached the one that overlooked the storage shed in the back. The door to the shed was wide open. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed the rifle from the closet and went outside, calling out, "Who's out there?" but got no response. I walked cautiously toward the shed, making it clear that I was armed. I opened the door slowly, the rifle aimed at the shadows inside. The shed was packed with all kinds of tools and machines, lawnmowers, a quad bike, garden equipment, all sorts of things a person could hide behind. I stepped into the shed and scanned every corner. It felt like someone could be crouching behind any of the items, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. As a kid, I wasn't easily spooked, but that moment made me feel deeply uneasy. I didn't want to find out what was hiding back there, so I shut the door quickly and ran back inside. I locked the house and stood by the window, watching the shed for any sign of movement. That door to the shed was heavy, almost impossible for it to just swing open on its own. Someone had been there, and they had opened it. Whether or not they were still inside, I wasn't sure. I called my dad but didn't get an answer. This was before everyone had smartphones, so I left him a voicemail. I waited a while, then tried calling again, but still no response. To calm my nerves, I put on a TV show in the background, taking the phone with me just in case. But then, I heard something from upstairs. Creaks. My pulse quickened. Was I imagining things, or was someone really upstairs? I had a protective instinct. I'd always seen the house as mine, something I had to look after, even if I didn't particularly like living there. That night remains the most terrifying experience of my life, and I still think about it. What could have happened if I hadn't called the police in time? It's the fear of not knowing what could have been hiding in that house, and the terror of coming face to face with someone who had no business being there. The creaking noise had come from the side of the house where my parents' bedroom was, so I knelt down and looked under the door. My breath caught in my throat. I could see 2 bare feet, facing away from the door. I felt my stomach twist. Suddenly, the situation hit me. This was real. I wasn't prepared to confront whoever was inside. I didn't know if I was ready to threaten or even hurt someone, and the idea of it terrified me. I quickly stood up and ran back downstairs, hiding in the bathroom. I called my dad again, still no answer. I left another voicemail. Panicking, I finally called 911. I whispered everything into the phone, describing what was happening in detail. The operator told me to stay put and stay quiet. I could hear the footsteps coming down the stairs, the soft thud of each step getting closer. The sound was chilling. Whoever was upstairs had a purpose. The footsteps stopped right outside the bathroom door. There was a pause, and then a deep voice broke the silence. "What's up, kid?" I still remember those words. That voice. Even now, if I heard it again, I would recognize it instantly. It sent a wave of fear through me so strong that I almost cried. But I did the only thing I could think of. I ignored the operator's instructions and spoke up, my voice shaking. "I'm on the phone with the cops right now," I said louder than I intended. "And I have a gun." I put the phone on speaker as the operator asked if everything was okay. I could hear the man trying to open the bathroom door. When he realized it was locked, I heard him walk away. The footsteps faded, and then I heard the unmistakable sound of a door slamming. It was the back door. A breath I didn't realize I was holding escaped me. I stayed in the bathroom, completely still, waiting for the police to arrive. When they did, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my chest. The officers did a thorough search of the house, inside and out, but by the time they arrived, the man was already gone. They asked if I had somewhere else I could stay that night, and I said yes, my uncle's place. We contacted him, and he came over to speak with the police. Afterward, he took me to his house. What haunts me most about that night is that it was all my fault. If I'd locked the door to the storage shed, none of this would have happened. It was only when I went to investigate that I gave the intruder the opportunity to slip inside unnoticed. Even with a rifle in my hands, I didn't feel safe. That night remains the most terrifying experience of my life, and I still think about it. What could have happened if I hadn't called the police in time? It's the fear of not knowing what could have been hiding in that house, and the terror of coming face to face with someone who had no business being there. When I was around 14 or 15, I was home alone one afternoon, and for the first time, I really enjoyed the freedom. My parents had taken my younger brother to a full-day event, leaving me behind. The house was completely mine, and I reveled in the quiet and the solitude. I'd only been left alone a few times before, and though I was used to having my family around, this felt like a rare taste of independence. I was bored out of my mind, and since one of my friends had invited a bunch of people over, I figured I'd swing by their place. My parents had told me specifically not to leave the house while they were gone, but I didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't listen. I threw on my jacket, slipped on my shoes, and headed out. Looking back, I can't believe how careless I was. I didn't even lock the door when I left. At the time, it didn't occur to me to check it. I was too eager to hang out with my friends. But when I returned a few hours later, I realized just how badly I'd messed up. As soon as I walked into the kitchen, I saw that something was off. The cabinets were open, and things on the counters and table had been moved around, like someone had been rifling through them. My heart started pounding. I called out, "Hello," hoping that if anyone was inside, they'd be gone by now. No answer. My gut told me something was wrong, so I started checking around the house. I went through the living room and kitchen, trying to see if anything was missing. But just as I was about to go upstairs to check the rest of the house, the home phone rang. It was an unknown number. I stared at the screen for a second, debating whether to answer. It could have been a spam call or some telemarketer. But I picked it up anyway. There was nothing but heavy breathing on the other end. For a few seconds, I just stood there frozen. Finally I said, "Hello? Who's this?" I waited, and just as I was about to ask again, I was cut off by a chilling voice. "I'm in the house." I felt the blood drain from my face. I tried to stay calm and said, "No, you're not. I'm home with my family, and there's nobody here." The voice responded immediately coldly, "We both know that's a lie," before abruptly hanging up. I stood there in silence for a moment, my heart racing. Then I heard something else, creaking from upstairs. I froze. I yelled, "Hello," again, my voice shaky. The next sound I heard was the unmistakable sound of footsteps, quick, heavy, and running down the hallway toward the stairs. Whoever it was moving fast, and I felt the fear sink in. They were coming for me. Panic flooded me, and without thinking, I bolted for the back door. I ran as fast as I could toward the woods behind the house, my mind racing. I had to get away. I didn't stop until I reached a neighbor's house and banged on their door. I was out of breath and scared out of my mind, but they let me in and let me use their phone to call the police. When the cops arrived, they found the back door wide open, just as I'd left it when I ran. They searched the house, but by the time they arrived, whoever had been there was long gone. They didn't find anyone, but it was clear someone had been inside. The officers reassured me, saying it seemed like the intruder had broken in, but left when they realized I wasn't home. I was relieved but still shaken. Whoever it was had been close, and for all I knew, they might have been planning to hurt me. I didn't stay home alone again for years after that day. The fear of what could have happened still haunted me, and even now, I can't shake the memory of that voice on the phone and the sound of those footsteps coming for me. I learned that some risks aren't worth taking, no matter how small they seem at the time. This happened not long after I turned 15. For my birthday, my parents had gotten me an Xbox and even set me up with my own monitor, so I could play in my room. My bedroom was on the second floor, and in the weeks after my birthday, I spent most of my time up there, gaming and chatting with my friends. It was a Saturday night, and I was in the middle of an Xbox party chat with two of my school friends. Both of my parents had gone out of town for a work conference that weekend, leaving me home alone for the night. I had the volume cranked up pretty high on my headphones, but in the middle of our conversation, I heard a strange thumping sound coming from downstairs. Anyone who's been home alone as a kid knows that any unfamiliar sound can send your mind into overdrive, imagining the worst. I turned down the volume on my headset and took one earbud out, straining to listen. For the next 5 minutes, everything seemed normal, but then I heard the thumping again. This time, I couldn't ignore it. I told my friends about the noise, and they both jokingly encouraged me to go check it out, suggesting someone might have broken in. I laughed it off, but they kept pushing me to do it, so I promised I would during the next break in our game. When that break finally came, I took off my headset and slowly started walking toward the stairs. As I descended the staircase, I began to hear soft, whispering voices. I froze midway down. It felt like time stopped as I tried to figure out if I was hearing things or if someone was actually downstairs. I crouched down low and peeked around the corner into the living room, trying to stay as quiet as possible. That's when I saw them, 4 men, fully dressed in black, silently walking around. They were methodical, almost like they were searching for something or someone. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't process what I was seeing. All I knew was that I had to get back upstairs, and fast. I slowly turned around and started climbing back up the stairs, trying not to make any noise. But one of the stairs creaked loudly under my foot, and the sound echoed through the entire house. There was no way they didn't hear it. Panicking, I ran back to my room, grabbed my headset, and quickly told my friends to call the police. They sounded confused, but when they realized the urgency in my voice, they became serious. I told them to hurry, then threw my headset down on my desk, not sure if I had enough time to explain everything. I locked my bedroom door, but knew it wouldn't be enough. If they were looking for me, they'd know exactly where I was. So I slipped out and ran to the bathroom down the hall, keeping the light off and leaving the door slightly cracked so it wouldn't be obvious that I was hiding in there. I sat in silence, listening as the sound of boots steadily grew louder, heading toward the stairs. Soon, I could hear them getting closer to my bedroom door. They weren't knocking like they were trying to get my attention. They were slamming into the door, trying to break it down. I heard the voices clearly now. They were shouting things like, "Open the door, kid, or something bad will happen." I felt paralyzed with fear. Desperately, I started trying to open the bathroom window, hoping I could escape. But just as I was getting it open, I heard footsteps approaching the bathroom door. It creaked as the door started to open. With no time left, I dove headfirst out of the window. I landed awkwardly on my neck, but I forced myself to look back. Through the bathroom window, I saw a shadowy figure standing still, watching me. Before I could fully get up, The back door to the house slammed open, and 3 of the men ran toward me. My heart raced, and I scrambled to get to my feet. But I wasn't fast enough. All 3 of them grabbed me, pulling me back toward the house. Just as they were dragging me toward the door, I heard the distant sound of police sirens. They froze. The men exchanged a quick glance, then without warning, they sprinted toward the backyard fence, scaled it, and disappeared into the night. A few seconds later, the police arrived and came rushing through the back gate. I pointed them in the direction the men had gone, and a couple of officers immediately took off after them, while another stayed with me. They found only one of the men inside the house, the one who had been in the living room. The other 3 had managed to escape. As the police took my statement, I saw my 2 friends ride up the driveway on their bikes. I'll never forget the look of concern on their faces when they realized what had happened. Even now, I'm incredibly thankful that they called the cops when I asked them to. Their quick thinking probably saved my life. The officers found several weapons in the house, 4 knives and 2 fully loaded pistols. It was a close call, but if it weren't for my friends, things could have turned out a lot worse. To this day, I never stay home alone without making sure every door and window is locked, and I'm more cautious than ever about answering the door, even when I'm expecting someone. That night is something I'll never forget.